I am extremely happy that Corporation Bank Officers Organization is bringing out a documentary on its history.
In fact, this is a marvelous effort, an extremely marvelous effort to put the golden moments, the golden memories of the organization into a time capsule and present it on a platter to the younger generation. I am very sure that this would be not only a source of guidance, but also a source of inspiration and a learning experience to the entire trade union movement itself. Presenting it in a visual format will make it more appealing. Kudos, congratulations to the Corporation Bank Officers Organization.
In the field of Indian banking, the name Corporation Bank is in the vanguard position. During the past 110 years, the bank has gained the goodwill of crores of satisfied customers throughout India by providing the best service, and today, the bank has more than 3 lakh crore businesses. Behind this success lies the hard work of the entire rank and file of the bank. Corporation Bank, which began its journey in 1906, reached its present coveted position of a premier public sector bank due to the support and commitment of its stakeholders, especially its officers and employees.
This was the situation in Corporation Bank during the 1960s and 70s. The things were not so easy in those days, since the banking was done manually and the work pressure was too much. Officers had no definite working hours and were forced to work late hours. They were forced to work even on holidays and Sundays. No quarters were provided and officers had to make their own arrangement for stay. Some of them were compelled to stay in the branch premises itself, as there was no accommodation available locally. In spite of contributing their best for the welfare of the bank, the management was hostile towards the officers and denied them their legitimate dues. Leave was not sanctioned even for an emergency. Workmen of the bank looked upon the officers as agents of the management and treated them as their enemies. The officers were thus sandwiched between a hostile management and aggressive workmen. We are now at TMAPI International Convention Center, Mangaluru, and the preparations are in full swing for the 20th Triennial Conference of Corporation Bank Officers Organization. This conference will begin on Sunday 24th January 2016 and would end on the 25th. Nearly 3,000 members of Corporation Bank Officers Organization from all over India are expected to participate in this 2-day event. Before getting into the details of this colorful celebration of Officers Organization, let us peep into the past of CBOO. Why this union came into existence? What was the main objective of this union? let me take you through the journey of CBOO.
This book, CBOO, Inspiring 4 Decades, chronicles the entire saga of trials and tribulations of Corporation Bank Officers Organization during the past 4 decades, which is authored by Mr. T. R. Bhatt, who led the movement for nearly 3 decades and shaped Corporation Bank Officers Organization as a union with a difference. Workmen in the banking industry and the bank were organized since 1950s. During the 1960s, officers in State Bank of India organized themselves under the banner of All India State Bank Officers Federation. And they led the first ever indefinite strike by supervisory class against the atrocities of the SBI management. The 17-day long strike was a total success. It was the first ever strike by supervisory employees anywhere in India. This gave courage to officers of other banks to organize themselves.
Before the 1960s, the workmen unions were organized. They were militant and they were powerful. In the year 1919, the International Labour Organization was set up. The 1920s saw the emergence of Annie Besant and Mahatma Gandhi and their support to the trade union movement. 1926, the Trade Union Act was passed. 1947, the Industrial Disputes Act was passed. In the year 1949, the Banking Companies Act was passed. Between 1953 to 1960, the Shastri Award, 1960, the Desai Award, and in the year 1947, the 46 days indefinite strike by the AIBA, and the 21 days indefinite strike in the year 1960 by the State Bank Staff Union saw the emergence of workmen unions in a very powerful and a strong manner. But the officers were nowhere. They were crushed, sandwiched between the powerful workmen unions and the bank managements. The officers were groping for their roots. That was when many officers came forward to form the officers' associations and federations in the year 1965 in various banks like the State Bank of India, Central Bank of India, UCO Bank and various other banks.
Corporation Bank Officers Organization started its journey on January 26, 1973 at the Foundation Conference held in Bengaluru. To brave men, the founder General Secretary Kochika Radhakrishna Pai and the first President P. Devdas Mallya accepted the challenge of leading the movement against all odds with the dream of betterment of the lives of officers. The collective efforts began to bear fruits as Corporation Bank Officers Organization could secure many new benefits and improve upon the existing ones in the beginning itself.
I am lucky to be associated in this organization as a founder member. Equally, I was also lucky that I was an inspector in the bank during the year 1970 to 75, during which period in my all travels in inspection of the various branches, my mission was first bank inspection and second mission was to see that all officers are enrolled as a member of the CBO.
Corporation Bank Officers Organization was formed to espouse the cause of officers in the bank, for betterment of their working conditions and lives, and also to work towards the betterment of the bank. It provides better customer service as emphasized in the bylaws. The organization during its 4 decades of existence could provide to its members service conditions comparable to the best in the industry and also develop a distinctive work culture which found expression in the statements of the regulator and the owner that it is a public sector bank with private sector work culture.
The situation prevalent at that time was entirely different from the situation which can be seen by us today. The service conditions were not comparable to the service conditions of the officers elsewhere. They were not comparable to the service conditions of the workmen in our own bank. Secondly, the treatment given to the officers in the bank was abominable, I should say. Third thing was, in the matter of disciplinary functioning of the bank, arbitrariness then the vindictiveness, lack of principles of natural justice were the order of the day. In addition to all this, we had a serious problem of the treatment itself being meted out to the officers of the bank.
The policy of the bank management was that managers and officers have to manage everything. You manage with the customers, you manage with the staff, you manage with the workload, but do not come to us for any problem. Otherwise, you will be dubbed as inefficient.
Working hours were too long. The transfer was, so much of uncertainty was there in the transfer.
In certain branches, officers were manhandled, including the branch manager also was garrowed. Under such circumstances, officers felt that unless and otherwise there is unity in the officers, unless otherwise there is a force behind us, we cannot get recognition.
It was necessary for the officers to organize if they had to protect their own interest. So that was how in 1973, the officers with the commonality of thinking came together and decided to form an organization. There are three distinct objectives of the officers' organization. Number one, protecting the interests of the members. Number two, safeguarding the interests of the bank. Number three, a societal concern, a concern for the well-being of the society. Within the next 3 years, there is a transformation in the bank, there is a transformation in the relationship between the officers' organization and the management. Bilateral relationship was introduced in the bank during the chairmanship of Mr. M.R. Kamath. Several facilities were extended to the officers. Management agreed to conduct 4 meetings in a year between the officers' organization and the management.
The top officers and managers used to see the administration of the organization, and the lower level officers used to expand the activities of the organization in branches. All officers assembled at the place at their own travel costs, and all other expenses were borne by themselves. Such was the enthusiasm in the officers' movement at that time.
In 1975, Sri N.N. Pai was appointed the chairman and chief executive officer of the bank. He had scant respect for unions and tried to impose the diktats of management on employees. The declaration of national emergency in 1975, which curtailed basic rights of the citizen, further emboldened the corporation bank management under Mr. N.N. Pai. As a result, the industrial relations climate in the bank worsened.
A period of victimization, vindictiveness, a period of authoritarian administration started, and this made it very difficult for the officers' organization to function. Those who questioned the decisions of the management, arbitrary actions of the management, would be visited with extreme penalty of transfer from one place to another. It could be followed by suspension. There are also cases of dismissal without giving any reason, without conducting an inquiry against the branch manager.
After the lifting of the emergency till 81, again expansion of the activities of the officers' organization took place.
The new president of the officers' organization was promoted, and he quit his position, stating that the functioning of the organization was not proper. K. Radhakrishna Pai, General Secretary of the organization, was transferred to Raipur and placed in the suspension when he resisted the unfair treatment.
Early beginning of 1980, I did not hear of an officers' organization in the bank. It was only in the year 1980, Mr. N. Balasubramaniam and Mr. Achyut Pai, the then President and General Secretary, they toured Mumbai and conducted meetings. As an officer, I also attended that meeting.
When we speak about the service conditions prevailing in the bank at that point of time, 3 things must be remembered. Number one, there was absolutely no promotion policy, which therefore affected the career prospects or made the career prospects uncertain. Number two, regarding the placement of the officer, there is absolutely no policy. X or Y, if he is close to the top management, he might be posted as branch manager, whether he has the experience or no experience. Number three, on the transfer of the officers, there are no regulations at all, no guidelines. that could be, there was great amount of uncertainty, discrimination and victimization in the movement of the officers from place to place.
1977 conference of the organization which elected the office bearers, all office bearers were victimized and transferred. Therefore, it added to the problem. Those who were elected in 1979 made a sincere attempt to revive the organization, but they did not succeed to a large extent. Therefore, in this background, 1981 conference was a significant development in the history of the organization.
T.R. Butt was unanimously elected General Secretary of CBOO in the General Body meeting held at C.V. Nayak Hall in the month of April 1981.
By that time, the bank was nationalized in 1980 and the bank entered into the mainstream and a lot of changes had to take place, and then we come to 1981.
1981, new leadership under Mr. T.R. Butt and his team, which was dynamic, and thereafter
the whole organizational setup underwent a change that could be considered as a turning point in the movement of the officers in the corporation bank.
And the need for this change was necessitated because the young officers were required to take the leadership.
I was election officer in the first conference of the CBOO held after nationalization of the bank. Even without being a principal office bearer, Mr. T.R. Butt had contributed so much in the negotiations for a better deal under the standardization exercise that he came to be very readily accepted almost unanimously as General Secretary in the first General Body meeting of the CBOO held.
The existing membership and the leaders who belongs to the old guard were more affiliated to the management than the officers' organization. And this needed a change as a lot of new recruitments have taken place. And most of the probationary officers who have come from all over the country expected a change from the leadership. And that is why youngsters have been brought into the organization.
When I had to take over as the General Secretary of the officers' organization, the dilemma before me was, how could I undertake that role when I had no experience at all? Secondly, I had not known how to conduct even the joint meetings with the management. But then there is assurance from senior colleagues like the then President, Mr. Achyut Pai, Mr. K. Venugopal, another colleague, Mr. L. Nagesh Bhatt, who were all my colleagues. A second more serious issue was I had to take the position in place of an incumbent General Secretary, Mr. N. Balasubramaniam. I was feeling greatly embarrassed when I was asked to take up the position in his place. But then the other colleagues were able to bring about an understanding, and that is how I finally agreed to take over the responsibility.
Main burning issues of Mumbai, especially the absence of quarters for the officers, was taken up. We launched an agitation wherein in front of the then regional office we shouted slogans, and one of the slogans I still remember was Makan do, 60 rupiya mein makan do. The house rent allowance was just 60 rupees and it was impossible to get a house for that paltry 60 rupees. So there were no quarters for the bank officers in Corporation Bank, and officers had a lot of difficulty who got transferred to Mumbai.
A major problem that came before us immediately thereafter was connected with the promotional policy. The bank did not have a promotional policy till the time. Arbitrariness, whimsical promotions were taking place, and it was necessary for the bank to evolve a new promotion policy. But the bank took a stand, the management took a stand that the promotion was the prerogative of the management. There cannot be a negotiated settlement on promotion policy. We had to undertake extensive campaigning all over India, many of the office bearers, president, then general secretary, then the other office bearers moved all over India and mobilized the membership. Then still there is no response from the management on the issue of the promotional policy. We had to ultimately give a call for strike. There too, what we did was to undertake a strike ballot. A strike ballot was undertaken. We called for the opinions of the members all over India, and if the ballot was in favor of a strike, we decided to go on strike. Fortunately for us, and as expected, there is an overwhelming support to the decision of the central office to call for a strike if the management refused to negotiate with us on the issue of promotional policy. Senior council prevailed upon the management, and they called us for a joint meeting. So around the end of December 1981, the preliminary meeting was held, and in January 1982, the promotional policy was finalized. The first ever promotion policy in the history of the bank was evolved through a joint discussion between us and between the officers organization and the management. It was approved by the board as early as possible and thereafter implemented. The second step through which we were able to mobilize the membership was on the issue of the disciplinary proceedings. We provided assistance to the affected officers, whether when they were charge sheeted, when they were suspended, when the inquiry was being held, we assisted them. And we were able to give a strong message to the management that arbitrariness and violation, the practice of violating the principles of natural justice will not be tolerated by the officers' organization. That this message was realized by the management, and system was the disciplinary proceedings. System of disciplinary proceeding was streamlined. A very important development of 1981-83 period was starting of the officers' voice. Now that was to be a very powerful medium of communication between the leadership and the membership. It was well received by the members. The contents of the officers' voice, even at that point of time, with just 4 pages, were appreciated. We were giving the views of our leadership on certain issues affecting the bank, as well as issues in the larger context of this in the banking industry. We were publishing the letters written by the membership, so that members would feel that their voice will also be heard by the leadership and the management. Third thing is that important developments in the organization, like visits, meetings at different places would be published. Reports about this would be carried in the officers' voice. That would give them a sense of participation. And this we are able to sustain over a period of time, so that during the first 2 years itself, from the date of starting till 1983-84, officers' voice emerged as a very reliable, very powerful medium of a communication between the officers' community on the one side and the organization. Officers' voice, when we started in 1982, we are not sure how many years it will run. There were also people who said you might not be able to sustain that project. But then we succeeded over a period of time by enriching the content, ensuring that it is sent to the members on time, then the widening the participation of the members, and the through broad basing the reach of the officers' voice to several constituents, not only our members but elsewhere, we enhance the image of the officers' voice. That is how, from the initial hesitancy, we were able to cross several milestones. 100th issue we crossed. At that time we were not sure whether it will go beyond. From 100th we went to 200, and last year 2015 we reached a milestone of 400 issues. I think it is a unique record for any magazine of a trade union, where through internal support we have been able to continue a magazine for a period of such a long time. From 1982 till date, the officers' voice is coming out uninterruptedly every month.
In 1983, T.R. Butt was re-elected as the General Secretary of the organization. The setting up of an education and training wing in 1984 helped to improve the functioning and activities of the union.
The purpose was to provide the necessary inputs to the activists of the organization to run the trade union. Secondly, we had also to provide inputs to the aspirants in the bank to promotion aspirants to be very specific. We provided them the wherewithal to appear for promotion through by conducting coaching classes, by providing them study materials. This was received well by the officers, not only officers, even the members of the clerical staff who were aspiring to get promoted took advantage of this facility which were provided by the organization. Over a period of time, education and training wing emerged as a very, very useful organ of the organization.
Before 1982, there were no welfare schemes in the bank. In case of death of an employee in the bank, he would get only his terminal benefits, nothing more. So, the organization had demanded from the management to introduce some welfare scheme, but the management was reluctant, they were not agreeable to that. Therefore, the organization had thought that some sort of welfare scheme should be introduced in the bank. So, in 1982, a welfare scheme was introduced by the organization that was called Benevolent Fund Scheme. It was a very, very unique and novel scheme. I really salute the wisdom of our senior colleagues who had conceptualized this particular scheme.
In 1985, Corporation Bank Officers Organization Women's Wing came into existence. Srimati Bharati A. Nayak was elected as the first secretary of the Women's Wing. She was the manager of Mumbai branch at that time. In December 1985, a conference of the Women's Unit was held in Mangaluru. With the formation of Women's Wing, the women officers started getting involved in organizational activities. Many seminars and conferences were held exclusively to discuss the issues affecting women officers.
During 1980s, the bank was progressing both in terms of business as well as branch expansion, and a lot of recruitment was taking place in the bank. Consequently, a lot of women officers joined the bank, but as far as the organizational activities are concerned, they were not taking part in the CBO's activities. So, therefore, it was thought that the women officers should also come to the main fold.
How to bring them into the mainstream was a concern for us. So, what we thought was, let us give them a formal platform which would be run by them under the overall guidance of the central leadership of the organization, and similar support we hoped we would be able to get from these regional committees as well. So, once we amended the bylaws in 1985 conference, created a separate women's wing, we gave them a lot of responsibilities.
Women leaders have been effectively representing the grievances of women officers with the management, and they have been able to solve so many problems. In order to encourage women officers, CBO has taken various steps. It has always encouraged women officers to take higher responsibilities and to rise up in rank.
CBO was one of the first organizations in the banking industry which formed the women's wing with a lady secretary for the women's wing, and even today we continue, and many of the organizations emulated us, but then the push that we gave yielded the results, and lady officers started taking more and more interest in the organizational activities also.
Today, with fond memories, I look back and say it was a golden period of my life. The time spent with the union was a lesson to me, and we conducted various activities amongst ourselves, and always the union, the central office was with us. Various training programs conducted by me and Mr. Tiabat and Godbole sir, etc., and Shakun, etc., was beautifully anchored and well taken.
There are also more personal problems for women. For example, when they work in when a large number of them are concentrated in a place, they need a resting place, they need medical checkup. These are specific for the women. So, what we thought was, through the women's wing, we were able to identify specific issues.
The very fact that it had demanded with the management and fought for getting one rest room at head office for the sake of women employees.
The women, can they be posted to rural branches where there are no facilities for stay, where they could not travel because for want of conveyance? They needed separate treatment, so far the transfer is concerned.
Not only this, CBO has also organized several programs for the welfare of women.
All India Women's Convention, that too. It was well attended. None other than leader Godpole, Kamala Sambasham, senior executive from SBI, former CMD Ramurthy also attended. And not only lady officers participated from various banks, our staff attended, and it was something amazing. All the time it was something very great. Our focus was to bring women together, and during my time I was able to do it very ably.
In 1987, Corporation Bank Officers Organization moved to its own premises in Meridian Apartments, Kudiyalbale, Mangaluru. Till that date, it was functioning from a congested room at Pereira's Lodge, Clock Tower, Mangaluru, while its registered office remained at Bengaluru in a premises provided by the bank in 1984.
CBO started functioning in a small room in Ramakrishna Lodge in Bangalore, where its registered office was situated at that time. But since 1981, when the main activities of the organization was shifted to Mangalore, where the head office of the bank is situated, we found that the central office in Mangalore should be the hub of activities, because the major office bearers, especially the General Secretary and his team, was functioning from Mangalore.
We took a small room in Pereira Lodge in Hampankatta. On the rooftop, it was on the 5th floor, and we continued there for some time, but the space was very much limited. We had a clear vision about the organization's growth. We had a lot of plans. We wanted to expand our activities, and we were also looking at the State Bank of India Officers Association. They had their own building in Bangalore.
Having our own office, we are operating from a place, but it was not satisfactory. There was a decision from the general body in Mumbai that CBO must have its own premises. So that is how we purchased the premises at Meridian Apartment in 1987 and shifted to that office. Simultaneously, we were working with the management to get ourselves formally recognized.
Recognition was required because the management had certain obligations if the organization was recognized in calling periodic meetings, formal meetings, and declaring the organization as the sole bargaining agent for discussing all the issues pertaining to the officers. This demand was fructified in the year 1984 by means of a formal recognition.
The CBO has also certain duties and responsibilities as per the code of conduct signed by them. With the result, the industrial relations climate in the bank has improved to a considerable extent after the recognition by the management.
As a part of this formal recognition to the organization, the management had to give us premises to house our office. Initially, they gave us the premises in Bangalore, where our registered office was situated. But over a period of time, when we shifted the registered office and the central office to Mangalore, we needed to have an office here, and the management gave us the current premises, namely 106 Lobo Prabhu Court. Once this was given, we shifted our entire office from the Meridian Apartment to the 106 Lobo Prabhu Court.
And consequently, we surrendered the premises offered to us, or rather occupied by us, in Bangalore. And along with the Deputy General Secretary's functions, even Treasurer's function also was taken over by me, with the concurrence of the then treasurer Mr. Shankaraman, who was working then in the accounts department in Bangalore.
There were a lot of discrimination and uncertainties when it came to the issue of transfer of offices. When Corporation Bank Officers Organization demanded a fair and transparent transfer policy in 1987, the demand was met with rebuke and hostile response from the management. The work which was begun in 1981 to galvanize the officers as a formidable force had borne fruits, and officers under the banner of Corporation Bank Officers Organization were ready to test their strength.
The bank started opening branches in the North Indian centers, and transfer of officers sailing from the south to the north was a major issue where there were large scale discrimination and favoritism, which gave rise to a feeling that there should be a structured policy governing the transfer of officers.
In 1987, I was elected Deputy General Secretary along with Mr. Surendra Shanai, who was then working in Pusaripatti branch in Tamil Nadu. We persuaded the management to give him a transfer to Mangalore, but that did not materialize, and his entire term he was in Pusaripatti. The treasurer, Mr. Shankaram, who was elected in 1987, was working in Bangalore, but the management did not give him also a transfer to Mangalore. So as a result, we had a lot of challenges to face along with the shifting of the registered office to Mangalore.
Now, in our relationship with the management, transfer policy was a very, very contentious issue. It was contentious because the management took a stand that transfer was the prerogative of the management and the union has no role to play. That was the stand taken by the management. But we countered it by saying that transfer affects every officer. Movement of the officer from one place to another can affect his efficiency, it can affect his family life, but bank also requires officers at different places. Therefore, it was necessary to harmonize the expectation of the management, the realities of the bank, and then the expectation of the officers. And for this, we suggested to the management there should be a bilateral discussion on the issue of transfers, and a policy mutually acceptable should be availed, it should be implemented. Management was not willing to do this.
Because chairman was very adamant. He said, if transfer policy has to be signed, it will be on my dead body. And CBO took it as a challenge, and it was a question of establishing our identity.
We undertook a series of campaigns. Simultaneously, we discussed with the management. A series of meetings took place, but the management continuously resisted our attempt to resolve the issue bilaterally. But finally, when we had to go for a strike in December 1988.
And I had the responsibility of organizing the strike at a head office unit, mobilizing the membership, and I can still recollect how we organized the first strike. And before the strike, there was a dharna in front of head office. It was first time we were organizing a dharna in front of head office, and that bringing injunction, it was like a fire. It created fire among all the membership, and dharna was totally successful, and it also gave a impetus to the strike call.
As General Secretary, I had so much of tension because we are not sure how the officers would respond, how the management would respond. There could be victimization. And against all these odds, we had to mobilize membership. I am happy to say that we succeeded. And it was a phenomenal success in as much as 99% or more than 99% of the officers participated in the strike, and it is a historic ever strike.
Preparation for the strike was tremendous. There was total involvement of the activists in putting posters, then going in and around. I still recollect myself along with Mr. P.P. Suvarna, who was the Deputy General Secretary, along with other activists. We went around in the city and pasted posters in major locations.
And management had no choice but to call us for a discussion. And from the position of no discussion on the transfer, which according to management was a prerogative, they invited us for a bilateral meeting, and in 1989 January, we hammered out a solution, a policy governing the transfer of the officers within the framework of the officer service regulation was mutually agreed, and it was adopted by the board and it was implemented.
And the strike established CBO's right and the members' right as a organization.
So, we were able to achieve 2-3 things in the process of this 1980 strike. Number one, we gave a strong message to the management saying that on the issue which affected a large number of officers, organization would fight collectively, and we demonstrated this to the management. Second, officers were able to get so much of confidence in the capability of a collective effort, and that is how they involved in the strike. Third thing is, we are able to evolve a policy that could be applicable to the bank as a whole over a period of time.
As a backlash, management issued charge sheet to 3 office bearers and victimized them. I was one of them. Along with me, the other 2 colleagues who received the charge sheets are Mr. K. Koteshwar Rao and Mr. K. Govind Bhatt. I did not deter from my contribution to the organization even after the victimization. Similarly, my other 2 colleagues also. In fact, it gave us more courage and more determination to participate more in the activities of the organization.
From 1989 onwards, several agreements were signed between the management and Corporation Bank Officers Organization. As a result, the officers received many facilities like rent-free quarters at all centers, furniture for the quarters, reimbursement of conveyance expenses, cost of newspaper, entertainment expenses, telephone expenses, housing loan and conveyance loan with concessional interest, etc.
These could be possible once again because of the collective efforts of the organization and a deeply conscious leadership. Conscious in the sense the leadership was aware of the expectation of the members when they compared their position with the position obtaining in other banks. So, to that extent, the organization lived up to the expectation that it was member centric, it responded to the expectation of the members, and organization was able to get these facilities to the officers over a period of time from 1989 till the end of, let us say, the 20th century.
The recognition and improvement in quality of life of officers resulted in officers putting their best and going that extra mile, which was reflected in the spectacular progress made by the bank by establishing itself as a premier public sector bank. During the beginning of 90s, the bank was saddled with huge bad loans, non-performing assets in today's parlance, which forced the RBI to think of merging the bank with another public sector bank.
Mr. Ramamurthy was a visionary leader, and he arranged a tripartite meeting at Ullal Summersons and invited both the recognized unions and asked both, given an opportunity to present their views on how to bring back the bank on the rails.
The bank was about to skip the dividend that particular year because we were unlikely to earn profit that year, and all collective efforts were required, collective efforts between the organization and the management. So, we stressed upon the need to build up a collaborative culture in the institution. We gave a number of suggestions to the management at that time. We gave a set of working papers to the management about the strategies that could evolve by the bank to remove the contaminated or cleanse the contaminated portfolio, loan portfolio, improve the strategy for development. All this was done during this period.
We gave a call to the members to fully participate in the bank's business and achieve the target set by the bank. The members responded in ample measures. We told the members that during this crucial period, no financial demands would be raised with the management.
In addition to this, another important development that took place to further the collaborative relationship between the organization and the management was the appointment of the officer's representative on the board as director. This took place for the first time in the bank's history in 1991 July. the General Secretary of the officers organization was appointed the director, and that gave a sense of participation to the members of the organization as well, because a representative, a duly elected representative of theirs was to sit on the board, being a part of the top level decision making body. So, in the process, the organization could address the issues affecting the bank, either its credit administration, the non-performing assets, the manpower management, HR policies, then all related issues could be addressed through a collaborative effort, where apart from our representative being on the board, the organization also periodically undertook discussions with the management. Management is also equally responsive to the suggestions that were given. The regular meetings, including on issues like customer service between the organization and the management, that is how during the 10-year period from 1989 till 1999, 2000, I would consider it to be a period of collaboration, and not only the benefits of the officers enhanced, but the bank's health improved.
And we used to call ourselves a viable growing bank.
In his address as chief guest at Corporation Bank Officers Organization Chennai Conference in August 1995, eminent agriculture scientist Dr. M.S. Swaminathan had complimented Corporation Bank Officers Organization for promoting an organization that was committed to the cause of spreading a common wavelength within the organization, a wavelength of shared values, of shared commitments, of shared goals, of a shared vision. After the death of its founder member and then President Sri N. Balasubramaniam in 1995, the Executive Committee decided to rename its Education and Training Wing as Balasubramaniam Foundation and also hold lectures at regular interval on issues relating to banking, finance, human resources and public issues.
The foundation has been bringing out guides for promotion aspirants. It has published CBO manual on service conditions. It has published the revised history book, CBO Inspiring for Decades.
It was the policy of the leadership of the organization that the members of the organization working in the bank should look beyond the four walls of the bank. It is not merely the union activity that they should involve in. On the other hand, they should also know what is happening around us. With this in view, continuously CBO started organizing several programs, seminars, symposia, lectures, where we would invite very eminent persons from different walks of life. After 1996, we introduced the Balasubramaniam Memorial Lectures. Even before that we had started, but we formalized with that.
Foundation has been conducting number of programs in the series Balasubramaniam Memorial Lecture, wherein we had invited eminent personalities like
Krishna Iyer, Santosh Hegde, then we had social activists like Swami Agnivesh, Medha Patkar, Aruna Roy. Then we also had scientists like Dr. Kasturi Rangan, then Dr. M.S. Swaminathan.
You are Anandamurthy, noted writer and Jnanapita Awardee. Sucheta Dalal, noted journalist. C.R.L. Narasimham, business editor of Hindu. Dr. P.D. Shenoy, Labour Secretary of Government of India, and many more, who had addressed on different subjects ranging from banking to issues affecting economy and society.
What we were trying to achieve was that our members, not only our members, but those who participate in those meetings must get a wider vision of the whole world. So it was not only we are repaying our debt, but at the same time we are exposing our members to areas which are new, with which they were not familiar, they could enrich themselves. This was our objective, and over a period of time that became a practice in the officers organization, which was not done by many other trade unions in the banking industry.
In the general body meeting held in its silver jubilee year 1998 at Mangaluru, it was decided to launch a social and cultural wing to repay its debt to the society and extend its helping hand to the downtrodden and the needy.
Trade union is a social movement. When we say it is a social movement, we draw our sustenance from the society, and we owe a huge debt to the society, and therefore it is necessary morally on our part to repay our debt to the society. And CBO was committed to undertaking these societal activities. That is how from 1990, from 85, 90 onwards, we started a number of activities beyond our normal trade union activities.
And after discussions, we called for names from our names for this new organization, which will cater to the needs of the society, which was later named as SWASTI.
And I was chosen as the first secretary of the wing. SWASTI began its journey by conducting a survey in Mangalore to know the infrastructure facilities available in government schools. Astonishingly, we found that in one of the schools in Nella Padavu, forget about students, even principal did not have a chair and table to work. We assisted that school by donating a furniture costing around ₹1 lakh.
Through SWASTI, CBO has worked for social cause. On one occasion, on the Founders' Day, all the children belonging to orphanages in and around Mangalore were invited to CBO Center, and Dr. U.V. Shene, a reputed pediatrician, had given them health tips and also examined them. An entertainment program was also organized, and the smiles which we had seen on these orphans had satisfied us a lot.
SWASTI do not collect funds from the public. It organizes the activities out of the funds contributed by the members and additional contribution. Every member contributes ₹5 per month towards the activity.
One instance which I can never forget was of a school in Udupi, what is today Udupi district.
There was no proper road facility there, and it was a great experience that we have to cross 2 rivers to reach that place.
That school, it was a primary school, they didn't have the basic amenities, no furniture was there, no table chairs were there for the teacher, there was only one teacher in the school. We provided the necessary furniture to the school, and people were for not only furniture but teaching aids were provided to the teachers, drinking water facility was provided to the students.
Our SWASTI activity in that village created an awareness among the villagers, and a small contribution by CBO under SWASTI has made a big difference. When we visited the village after 2-3 years, there was a major change in the village.
We could not believe our eyes when we saw that a lot of transformation had taken place in that school. There is a water supply was arranged to the pipes, a huge playground was constructed, more furniture had come. We asked the teachers, how this had happened? Then the teachers shared with us, after having heard and seen people coming from a distant place with no connection whatsoever with the school, they were inspired to render self-help. So through voluntary help, voluntary involvement of the people around the village, they constructed a playground for the school. They took water supply from a nearby pond or well. They arranged the water supply to the school, and that gave us immense satisfaction.
Sangam Valasa in Vijayanagaram of Andhra Pradesh. It was a Naxalite infested area where there was no motorable road, and we had to walk more than 2 kilometers in a forest area to reach the place, where we constructed a school building for the needy in the 3 tribal villages around.
Recently we had been to a school in a remote area near Mangalore, wherein we had an opportunity to donate computer table and other furnitures of that particular school. Children were basically from underprivileged, low-income group who were very much excited about the gift their school is getting. To see the joys in their face was a great experience. Now, whether individually I can imagine of these sort of things, that is what CBO has given for me, and I am very much happy for that.
It was in the year 2015 to celebrate the 43rd Foundation Day of CBO. General Secretary gave a call to all the zonal units to identify at least one activity in their zone. I am very happy that all the zonal units have identified the activities under Swasti, and it was a very satisfying moment for all of us, especially for me.
It is a part of the policy of the leadership itself. In fact, from when I became General Secretary, I was not sure that how long I would continue. I had no desire to continue for a long. So finally in 1993, when I relinquished the post of General Secretary, a young officer who had already excelled as a very good activist, Mr. Venugopal, he was elected General Secretary in 1993.
Sri K. Venugopal, then General Secretary, expressed his desire to step down, and CBO was searching for a General Secretary.
By that time, we had already groomed a youngster in the name of Mr. D.N. Prakash, who had acquitted himself as a very capable leader. We elected him as the General Secretary in place of Mr. Venugopal.
It also was the year in which, along with me, a number of young leaders were brought into CBO Central Office, like Kaushik Ghosh, Raghunath Rodikal, Eknath Baliga, H.S. Vishwanath. All of them joined along with me, and they supported me and later took over the reins of the organization.
This process continued. Mr. Prakash continued as General Secretary from 98 till 2007. I was the President, and in 2007, I wanted to relinquish my post as President, and I relinquished, and Prakash became the President of the Officers Organization. What we tried to do was, over a period of time, was identify new people, ensure a smooth succession. Youngsters should come forward, they should take up the responsibility and continue the organization's growth.
As a mark of completion of its silver jubilee, CBOO decided to have a monument to cherish the event, which led to construction of CBOO Center in 2000.
The 3 main purposes of conceiving this idea was to have our own premises for our activities, to have rooms, guest rooms, to accommodate our members coming from all over India to the headquarters of the bank, to have our own premises to conduct our meetings.
Every time we had to conduct a meeting, we had to go to a hotel, find out the availability of hall, and depend on various factors. We thought if we have our own building with all amenities required to conduct our regular trade union activities, it will be of great help to the organization. That will strengthen, that will give further fillip to our activities. That was our idea.
At the same time, we had also got an inspiration from State Bank Federation, where in Bangalore they had set up a training institute.
In this context, I must make a special mention about the efforts done by Sri M. Gauranga Das, right from proposing this in the executive committee and also monitoring the collection of the funds, and also for the supervising the construction of this building on day-to-day basis.
As initially the land was purchased with whatever funds the organization had, it took 2 years for starting of the construction because funds were not available. One unique feature of the CBO Center was it was constructed and with the wholehearted support of the members. Every rupee that was spent on CBO Center was contributed by the members, and this beautiful edifice stands as a testimony to the commitment of the members to the unity and solidarity of the officers organization.
It was decided to collect the donation of rupees 1000 each from
members by way of check-up system. We have purchased a piece of land measuring about 20 cents in the centrally located place, and we have in 1998 the foundation was laid for construction of the building, and it took less than 2 years to complete this project.
CBOO Center has an auditorium, Silver Jubilee Hall, a seminar hall, guest room facility for the members. Silver Jubilee Hall is made available to the public at a reasonable rent, and the money received from it is used to maintain the building and its premises.
Realizing that Corporation Bank Officers Organization was very positive in its approach on issues affecting the bank, early in 2000, the management invited us to formulate the strategies for the development of the bank. One exercise connected therewith was to evolve the mission and the mission statement and the vision statement. We contributed very vital inputs to evolve the mission statement of the bank. We emphasized on involving the stakeholders like the employees. So, we said one of the aspects of the mission statement would be to create an environment intellectually stimulating and professionally rewarding to all employees of the bank. This was what we had suggested to the management, and it was made part of the mission statement of the bank, which was evolved in 2002, and it continued to be in the mission statement of the bank until very recently. And credit for this must go to the very positive attitude of the officers' organization.
During 2001-2002, as a part of improving the efficiency of public sector banks and reducing the flap, the Government of India introduced Voluntary Retirement Scheme, VRS, which was implemented in all the banks except Corporation Bank. Senior members of Corporation Bank Officers Organization who were not able to cope with the technology being introduced in the bank wanted to avail the scheme.
CBOO went against the official stand of AIBOC and demanded VRS from the management. This demand was the product of the requirement of the members as they decided in the general body meeting in Bangalore held in 2001 August. Secondly, the demand was countered by the workmen union telling that they do not want VRS, and the workmen put spokes in the wheels of the administration to deny VRS to the officers of Corporation Bank. Number 3, management was initially agreeable. They had said that they will give VRS, but because of some gimmicks played by the workmen union, the then CMD went back on his words and refused to introduce VRS in Corporation Bank.
During the year 2001-2002, there was a VRS agitation launched in the bank. Because of that, a lot of agitation going on in the bank. I was in Delhi at that point of time. I was the Deputy Regional Secretary at Delhi.
When we requested the management to extend the facility which was already given by other banks to our bank, management did not agree. Then when looking at the feeling of the members, we had to go before the management to pursue this issue. When management did not agree, it was decided in the general body meeting of the organization held in 2001 at Bangalore through a special resolution that we should place a demand for voluntary retirement scheme to be implemented in the bank, failing which the organization would go on strike.
Very, very novel methods of educational programs were adopted by the organization during this VRS agitation. For example, we had walked out, or the officers had walked out of the meeting called by the chairman in head office. Thereafter, in a Foundation Day program at Udupi, the officers did not occupy the chair. They stood behind by wearing white dhoti and shirts.
As usual, I contacted many of my colleagues in the executive cadre, and all of them said, "We are with you, we will also join the strike." But unfortunately, when the strike was called, very few of them were participated in the strike.
During which period I was elected as an organizing secretary representing the northern parts of the country. So accordingly, I had been entrusted with the task of speaking to the members, talking about the issue and taking the agitation forward. We had innovated the idea of moving over to various areas, addressing the members and impressing upon the need, the majority of the members for the cause of a minority, because we were very much aware that not all the people are going to be given an option for VRS, as the number of vacancies are likely to be less.
It was a unique because the VRS team would be availed by hardly 10% of the membership.
For these 200 or 300 officers, the entire membership amounting to numbering around 3,000, they went on agitation in 2002.
Senior colleagues who have built this organization, we should help them in getting VRS, and agitation was launched with weekly demonstrations all over the country, and also there was a dharna in front of head office,
followed by one-day strike on 31st March 2002. The strike practically moved the management so much that they did not expect that CBOO will go to the extent of a one-day strike for VRS.
Let me at the outset congratulate each and every one of the officers present here. This has been an exemplary show of solidarity. CBO took a very courageous, bold stand in piloting this issue because vast majority of our members, senior colleagues, have requested that VRS should be implemented in our bank.
It is a shame that a person from Indian Bank who has come here and teaching us the culture of Indian Bank here. We have made this bank number one. We don't want the culture of Indian Bank or any other bank to rule over here.
And the one-day strike was a grand success.
I had completed my term in Delhi. I requested for a transfer to Bangalore, which was not considered, and I was transferred to Bijapur as a punishment.
I have been one of the victims of this agitation, and I am transferred to a remote village from Mangalore, which is a rural place. Though I have already undergone the rural service as well as semi-urban service, there was no need for the management to transfer me to such a remote place. But as a soldier of the Corporation Bank Officers Organization, I took it in my stride, and even after going to the new place, I have been very active in the organization.
It was really a drastic action. In the evening, we received a fax message, and I was relieved from Vasco branch and asked to resume duty at zonal office on the very next day. I did the same thing. I joined duty at zonal office on the next day, and the second day I found that I received one more transfer order, and again I was transferred to Connaught Circus, New Delhi. It was really a surprise. I contacted my organization. My general secretary said, "Don't worry, we are taking up the matter."
In any action that CBO was taking earlier, though the executives, that is from scale 4 and above, were members, but they were not participating in any serious action like strike or dharna and things like that. But this time it was a need of the hour. 2 days before the strike, the chairman, Mr. Cherivan Varghese, sent Jayakar Shetty, the general manager of PAD, to Mumbai and to camp there and threaten and pressurize the officers, particularly the scale 4 and above officers, not to participate in the strike. And he came there and called each and every officer, scale 4 officers and above, and threatened them and requested them, pressurized them not to go on strike. All of scale 4 officers in Bombay were ready to strike, and almost everyone, without exception, was about to go on strike. The general manager, Mr. Jayakar Shetty, called me over phone when I was sitting in my cabin and requested me not to go on strike first. I said, "I'm committed to the organization and there is a call and I will be on strike tomorrow, sir," I said. Then he said in a threatening voice that, "Do you know the consequences of an executive going on strike?" I replied to him, "Sir, I am aware of all the consequences, then I have decided to go on strike." He said, "Okay, if you are going on strike, you hand over the keys of your branch to the officer I am sending to keep the branch open." I replied to him that I will hand over the key provided the officer who comes to take charge has to take complete charge of the branch as a branch manager. Then only I will hand over the key. He got angry. He said, "Nobody will take charge of your branch. You are on strike tomorrow and you hand over the key. This is my order." I told him, "Sir, I am sorry." I said, "I am handing over the key provided the officer who comes to take charge gives me a certificate that he has taken complete charge of my branch." He got very angry and told him, "If you are refusing, I will break open and enter the premises and run the branch." I told Mr. Jayakar Shetty, "Sir, I am the branch manager of this branch. As long as I am the branch manager, no one can dare to break the locks of my branch because I am in charge. In case anybody attempts to break open the branch locks, I will lodge a police complaint and take appropriate action." He got furious and disconnected the line. Mr. Shekhar, who was my officer, was a witness to this dialogues what we had and the conversations what we had in my cabin. Mr. Jayakar Shetty was a personal friend of mine those days, but he was doing his duty at the behest of the chairman, and I was doing my duty as a loyal member of Corporation Bank Officers Organization.
The strike was total success in spite of threats from the management functionaries. Executives who have participated in the strike, they were advised to hand over the keys and transferred overnight. People like Mr. John D'Souza, H.S. Srinath and others, they were transferred overnight.
Next day morning, I came to my office and I was sitting in my chamber. Within 10 minutes of my beginning of the office, there was a fax. The fax said, "You are transferred to zonal office." I was relieved that evening, and next day morning I was to join zonal office Mumbai. That afternoon, there was a surprise. Lunchtime, we just finished lunch and all the officers and other staff in the zonal office got together and called me out of my cabin and said, "Sir, we want to honor you and felicitate you. I was surprised. There was a big garland in the hand of one of the officers. They called me, one of the gentlemen narrated the whole incident, what has happened on the previous day and what was the result. And they had nice words for me. I was very happy. They garlanded me and felicitated me and clapped me around. I knew what I have done was not wrong. It was for the cause of officers, for VRS, and not for me.
Finally, when the VRS was introduced in the bank, it had helped a lot of senior colleagues in the bank. Many of the senior colleagues who were having some health problems, and some of the senior colleagues who were unable to cope up with the new technology, wanted to take an exit route. Therefore, they were very, very happy. They had congratulated the organization as well as they had expressed their gratitude to the organization.
The bank celebrated its centenary in the year 2006. Corporation Bank Officers Organization organized a program to pay its homage to the founder Khan Bahadur Haji Abdullah Haji Qasim Saheb Bahadur in Udupi, where the bank was founded in 1906.
Having grown with the bank, many of us senior colleagues in the bank were very happy about it, very proud about that moment. Although bank was very stagnant in initial years, slow to grow, it had developed its own culture, it had developed its own identity. We organized a program at the founder's place. We had invited a very eminent persons, including Pejawara Swamiji, because he was long associated with the bank from 1935 or 1936. He knew a lot about the founder of the bank, and therefore we invited him. It's a great occasion to many of us in the Corporation Bank Officers Organization that we had organized a program to commemorate the centenary of the bank, and in that we had paid our tribute to the founder Haji Abdullah Haji Qasim. And it is a moment that we'll always cherish.
The 17th General Body meeting held on 12th and 13th August 2007 is another landmark event in the history of CBO. The conference took place in Mangalore at TMAPI International Convention Center.
On the first day of General Body, during the deliberations, a suggestion was made that we should hold a demonstration in front of head office, and the General Body responded very positively.
The audience were all in one voice to respond to whatever I had told. I told them that there is a need that all the members should assemble in front of the head office on 13th of August. The entire membership echoed in one voice of their consent. 13th August 2007, this is probably the most unforgettable day.
Seeing the large mobilization, the top management took a decision to close the gate to prevent demonstration taking place.
The then General Secretary D.N. Prakash, he telephoned to General Manager PAD that seeking the reasons for closing the gates. The General Manager said that
he has a direction not to allow the demonstration. We ultimately, as General Secretary, I had to threaten him that if you permit demonstration to take place, anything happens, I will take the responsibility.
If anything happens by your not opening the gates, the management, General Manager, Chairman and ED will be responsible for any untoward event. The members assembled, they were in a frenzy, in a mood of anguish and anger. Anything could have happened at that time. But General Secretary requested all the people to keep quiet and wait for the instructions. The management had no option. They opened the gate. The sea of delegates entered the head office premises and assembled in front of the Millennium Building.
By the time CMD arrived at the scene and wanted to take advantage of the large gathering to convey his message, because he was not invited to the conference as guest because of his approach to the organization. His request was turned down by the delegates assembled there, and he was not allowed to speak.
After the address of the leaders who were standing there, the delegates went back to the conference venue. What is to be noted very importantly here is that despite the presence of more than 1,500 officers from CBOO, and despite the heightened mood and anguish of the delegates present there, no single untoward incident took place. The management's apprehensions were unfounded and proved to be wrong. The people came there, they assembled there, they were disciplined, they shouted slogans, they heard their leaders, and as per the instruction of the leadership, they went back to the conference venue. The 17th General Body meeting held in Mangalore in 2007 also wrote a fresh chapter in the history by a change of leadership. D.N. Prakash, who was the General Secretary till then, he took over as the President of CBO.
They created a post called the chairman and persuaded me, I could not say no, persuaded me to take up the post of chairman. That was the first ever post created in the organization history, and they arranged it in such a way that on my demitting the office on the superannuation, that post would also cease to exist.
Probably under those circumstances in August 2007, no other person would have dared to take the leadership of the organization. But Kaushik Ghosh, the Bengal tiger as we fondly call him, he took the gauntlet. He had the courage, the conviction and the spirit to say that I will lead. And he became the General Secretary in 2007. And what happened after, it is only a matter of history. Kaushik Ghosh changed the terminologies which were till then in different perspective.
On 26 December 2009, a farewell function was arranged to the icon of Corporation Bank Officers Organization, T.R. Bhatt, who was retiring from the bank on attaining the age of superannuation. He was the General Secretary from 1981 to 1993, President from 1993 to 2007, and the only Chairman of Corporation Bank Officers Organization from 2007 to 2009. He was a guiding force and a live wire of Corporation Bank Officers Organization, all through his 3 decades in the organization.
It is customary that at the time of the retirement of a leader of the organization or a executive of the bank, both the management, union, association used to give a farewell party.
The next question was, who all have to be invited in this program? It was analyzed that Sri K.R. Ramamurthy, who was one of the tallest personalities who had headed Corporation Bank in the past, and T.R. Bhatt, who had worked as General Secretary during his regime, it was ultimately decided we will call Sri K.R. Ramamurthy, our former Chairman and Managing Director, as the chief guest for this function.
I was the guest of honor as a General Secretary of the All India Bank Officer Confederation. I was surprised to see that not a single executive from the management was present, though the hall was overflowing with the enthusiastic members of the CBO. The management virtually boycotted the farewell party organized by the CBO because at that time the CBO was not in good terms with the management.
We had to arrange a program, probably for the first time in the last 3 decades at that time, wherein the planning, the requirements and the execution, it had to take place without Sri Bhatt. It was a challenge for all of us at Central Office in Bangalore.
2009 December was an unforgettable period, I should say. After putting in about 28 years of long association with the organization, I was laying down my office. Those moments are very rare to get in one's life. The leadership of the organization thought it appropriate to organize a felicitation to me here. and they had invited all members, not only members but outsiders. There was a huge crowd in the venue where the program was arranged. As an icing in the cake, the former chairman of the bank, Mr. K.R. Ramurthy, had come, apart from the leaders of the national level organization. My personal immediate family members had come, including my old mother. It was a rare occasion for them to find their own family member being felicitated by a huge crowd of people. And it's something that I cherish always. So much of affection was shown by the members who were present there. There are people who almost shed tears. And some of them desired to speak, but there was no time to speak. And I, in my response, became extremely emotional, because what I had got in turn from the officers, no doubt I had the responsibility as the General Secretary, President, Chairman over a period of 28 years. Many people said that I had sacrificed my career, but more than the sacrifice that I had, as people say I had sacrificed, what I gained was the affection from the members, the enduring relationship that was built, and I did not need anything else compared to the kind of affection that they showered on me at the time I laid on my office.
During 2007, when the President of the All India Bank Officers Confederation, Mr. Agarwal, retired, in the Executive Committee there was an opportunity to co-opt a suitable person for the post of the President of the All India Bank Officers Confederation. One of the names suggested was Comrade T.R. Butt. Though the entire House was favorable, but T.R. Butt was hesitating, not because of his capacity, but because the CBO was one of the smaller units as compared to the other organizations. I feel in retrospect today that we would have persuaded Comrade T.R. Butt to shoulder the higher responsibility and become the President of the All India Bank Officers Confederation. But T.R. Butt, known to everyone, he said that let the bigger unit take over this responsibility. I still feel that it would have been another jewel in the crown of Comrade T.R. Butt. But I do remember that it is not the position which brings the respect to the person, but the person brings the respect to the position.
Corporation Bank Officers Organization had a distinct role in the national body of the bank officers, which is called AIBOC. Though CBOO is a small affiliate of AIBOC, its contribution to the national body was immense. Its representative, T.R. Butt, was actively involved in its activities and acted as its think tank. On his retirement, D.N. Prakash was nominated as Joint Secretary and later Vice President of AIBOC. Both Mr. Butt and D.N. Prakash were part of AIBOC's wage negotiation teams.
To list out some of the great contributions that were made by the Corporation Bank Officers Organization and their leadership towards the trade union fraternity under the banner of AIBOC and also under the banner of PWTC. Number one is their interest in protecting or saving the public sector units and their interest in serving the common man through the financial institutions and undertaking the socio-economic programs of the government, and their interest to see that the banks are protected from the hands of the multinationals and private sector organizations. So, this is as far as the organization, trade union organization and public cause is concerned. Now, let me come to the third aspect of the Corporation Bank Officers Organization contribution is that it has given a wider vision to the trade union. It has given for the first time that trade unions can be positive. The trade unions need not be seen as enemy of the society. They can be part of the society and they can also be equally part of the development of the society, and that is how they took up several socio-economic programs of the meant for the common man in the country.
This document itself is a proof that they have not neglected the earlier leadership, they still want to involve them so that we can learn the lessons from the past so that our future will be smooth.
After the retirement of Sri R.S. Hugar, CMD in 2000, Executive Director N.S. Gujral became the acting CEO. During his 6-month tenure, a lot of irregularities occurred in loan appraisals, sanctions, disbursements and questionable deals in leasing of buildings for the bank. Corporation Bank Officers Organization played its role as watchdog and campaigned against such moves of the Executive Director. It enraged the Executive Director, who threatened the leadership. Finding that the leadership could not be cowed down, he was forced to retreat from his activities.
On 1st September 2010, Mr. Ramnath Pradeep, new CMD, joined our bank.
The 13 months regime of Sri Ramnath Pradeep as Chairman and Managing Director was the most challenging CBO had ever witnessed during its more than 40 years history. He wanted to accomplish a very big task of his during these 13 months. Devastating changes took place. There was probably an attack unheard on the values in the bank, in the policies practiced in the bank, and people were not able to gallop the way in which Ramnath Pradeep was taking the bank towards.
After his joining, he created a new division in credit division called New Business Group. New Business Group is required to give in principle clearance to all credit proposals. These proposals, instead of coming through the zonal offices, it will bypass without zonal manager's recommendation. Proposals can be given in principle sanction by the head office. The proposals when went to credit grid, naturally the members who are general managers, all general managers were members of this grid. They had to record their views. A few of the proposals has directly come through the Secretariat of CMD.
The main target of the then chairman was that he wanted to increase advances. He wanted to do certain changes, all in a hurry and without any botheration or without any thought as to what will happen to the bank. Ramnath Pradeep created a record when he pursued a same proposal for more than 7 times in the management committee. And during all those 7 times, Kaushik Ghosh and another one director, they resisted this proposal. So much was the resistance by the officer director Kaushik that in at one time, the chairman called Kaushik Ghosh and asked him what he wanted. You can understand what he meant by that. He wanted to purchase our director.
He said, I have nothing to say. I want only that whatever happens, it should be in the best interest of the bank. I have no other demands.
Ramnath Pradeep will not stop it there. Once he could understand that the bait did not work, he meted out a threat. He told Kaushik, मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ. That means I can go to any extent in respect of any person. This was a physical threat. Only the person who faces that will be able to realize what was this situation, what was the circumstance, what was the impact of such a threat. But Kaushik was not cowed down. He left it to the option of chairman to do anything that he wanted, telling that आपको जो चाहिए आप करो, हमें जो चाहिए वो हम करेंगे. Corporation Bank Officers Organization initiated a movement, Save Corporation Bank. The Save Corporation Bank campaign was the first of its kind, which was launched by CBOO to check the atrocious acts of Sri Ramnath Pradeep. A memorandum signature campaign was made, and these memorandums signed by all the staff members, executives, it was arranged to be sent to the Finance Ministry.
It ensured that The CVC directed an inquiry, direct inquiry for the first time in the banking industry. A direct inquiry was ordered by CVC. An inquiry officer came to head office of the bank in May 2010. He was there for a week. He questioned the certain decisions.
There was a threat to the leadership. We were afraid that the top management of the bank may initiate some action against the top leadership of the organization. However, true to its history, CBOO was not afraid of such actions, and the leadership faced the challenges, and till the date of the retirement of Ramnath Pradeep, there was no rest for CBOO.
Mr. Pradeep has to go without even getting a send-off because he was knowing that no one in the bank will give him a send-off. The bank was protected. I can say proudly that, but for our action, today the bank would have been saddled with 10,000 crores of rupees of bad debts. It is to the credit of entire membership as well as other core bankers, including the top management functionaries and the CBO.
CBO had to face another challenge in retirement of its top office bearers. In December 2009, Sri T.R. Bhatt retired. Then it was the turn of Sri M. Gaurang Das, the think tank of CBOO, the master strategist and a person with elephantine memory. He retired in June 2010. K. Sheshappa retired in 2011. In March 2011, Sukumar Salian retired. August 2014, it was Raghunath Kodikal. July 2015, it was Kaushik Ghosh. In November 2015, D.N. Prakash retired. He had served CBOO for nearly 3 decades. For long, we had a desire that AIBOC EC must be conducted by us in Mangalore. We arranged this program along with the retirement of D.N. Prakash.
This has been a brief history on the birth and growth of an organization that has brought about change in Corporation Bank in a way that no other union could. It has moved step by step towards success from time to time and is doing so. With CBOO's conference and colorful festival taking place at regular intervals and gaining more and more popularity, they have just inched a step higher to the skies.
All India Bank Officers Confederation! AIBOC!
CBOO ಭಾರತಾಂಬೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡಾಂಬೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಹಾರೈಕೆಗಳು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಹೋದರರ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ನಮನಗಳು.
The conference had been inaugurated by Professor Prabhat Patnaik, Professor Emeritus, JNU Delhi, in the presence of the leaders of AIBOC and nearly 3,000 delegates from all over the country. The business session was followed by debates and discussions on report of General Secretary and on issues affecting the officers and the industry.
I humbly request if it is possible, it can be again performed in the stage today evening. It's such a wonderful performance. I got some goosebumps.
Mahendra Neeladyuti Komalangi सब कुछ छोड़ के आना तो सावन आया कृष्णा बार बार वेणुनाद स्वरगण हरिसो सवेरा जब हुआ तो फूल बन गए The girl was dangerous. हम सब अधिकारी लड़े थे कभी कभी लेकिन बैंक का साथ छोड़े थे कभी नहीं सीबीओ जिंदाबाद है नारी हमारी रही कभी अलविदा ना कहना कभी अलविदा ना कहना
As the saying goes, changes call for innovation, and innovations leads to progress. On the second day of the conference, a new team consisting of President, Vice President, General Secretary, and other office bearers were selected democratically. At the end of the second day, the general body expressed its gratitude to the outgoing executive committee, which led during the past 3 years, and welcomed and congratulated the newly elected team, which would carry forward the movement.
I thank all our members for electing me as their General Secretary. It's a great responsibility. It's a hot seat adorned by great personalities like T.R. Bhatt, D.N. Prakash, Venugopal, Kaushik Kumar Ghosh, and till recently by Eknath Baliga. I have not accepted this responsibility thinking that I am equal to them, but I am confident that they have already created the path and I only need to follow it. I am also confident that all these great giants are behind me to support me, and the members will support in all my actions, which will be in the best interest of the bank, CBOO, and the members.
with every general body meeting, a dedicated batch of leaders make way for a new team of committed and enthusiastic leaders take over the mantle, thus keeping the CBOO sparkle and shine, alive and bright.
All this has created a feeling in the new generation of members who are joining the bank that whatever they are enjoying today, it is guaranteed for them. And it also created a tendency among them that why there should be a trade union at all. Because today offices face only two problems, one is transfer, another is promotions. Except that there are no major issues affecting them, except some requirement of improving the existing facilities.
To avoid these dark days of coming back, all members should actively participate in the activities and commit themselves fully to the goals and the aims and objectives of the organization.
Friends, please remember that united we stand and divided we fall. The need of the hour is your commitment to the cause and unity.
Many of the benefits are available to the officers today. Nobody should think that management had given these benefits to the officers on a platter. Behind every benefit enjoyed by the members or the employees in the bank today, there is a saga of struggle and sacrifice. We should not forget this.
It is very important that they should not feel by involving themselves in the activities of the organization that they are helping its leaders or other members. They should always feel that it is in their own interest they should involve in all the activities of the organization.
CBOO is a banyan tree. It has been nurtured by our predecessors and they had taken care of it. Today, more than 8,000 officers are taking shade and shelter under this tree. To grow this tree into this size, our former leaders and functionaries have sacrificed a lot.
The trade union is like an elder brother in a family. The father, that's the management, expects that the elder brother shall contribute in its business. At the same time, the brothers and sisters, younger one, they expect that the elder brother shall get everything from the father what they need. The trade union is having responsibility to balance both and to ensure that family silver is protected.
It is the strength of the organization which can achieve many more benefits to the members. Hence, my request to the members to participate more in numbers in the organizational activities.
Stay together, be involved, and you learn a lot, and that's a strength, and strength to not only you, to the cause of the union.
Follow the footsteps of the great leaders of the past and try to work for the common interest in the days ahead.
More than anything else, it was our effort, we were able to bring about an identity to the officers, bring self-respect to the officers, protect their dignity. This was the major achievement of the officers' organization.
Think that when your neighbor's house is on fire, I am not worried and you may not go to his help. But when your house is on fire, if that is your attitude, nobody else will come to your rescue. Please join hands, keep unity, and fly the flag of the organization very high.
For all the new members who are going to take up the responsibility of leadership in the future, you should not be scared for anything, any actions that would befall on you from the management. You should be strong, bold and courageous and face all the effects of the management with courage and dedication.
Be with the union and union will be always with you.
You criticize the leadership in case they falter. At the same time, you also appreciate them in case they do some good things to you.
Please remember, however capable you as an individual may be, it is the collectivity, it is the collective force, it is the strength of unity that builds us and that ensures us respect, dignity and a future to look up as respected bank officers working for the cause of the economy.
It is necessary therefore that we must develop our strength, we must work together, we must stand together, and by working together and standing together, it is possible to achieve the aspirations of not only our members, but the families of every member. And in this effort, every one of the officers will have to join so that CBO will grow from strength to strength.
My appeal to youth in our bank is not only to sit back and question what is happening, what is not happening, but to come and join mainstream, become a CBO functionary and resolve issues. Collectively, it can be a force which is unbeatable.
Now it is our role, our duty to keep the ball rolling. My sincere request to all my new generation brothers and sisters is to discharge their duties with sincerity and honesty towards bank. But at the same time, we should spare some time for our organization. Our future is bright and we will make it brighter.
In Rigveda it is told, Sangachamba Sammadadva. One voice, one path. The Upanishads have said, Charayveti, Charayveti. Let us move on and on. Let us move on and on together towards a better tomorrow. Let us move on and on to strive, to seek, to find and not to yield. Thank you.
We, the soldiers of CBO, work for the progress of the bank
and for betterment of officers.
Stand together.
Work together.
Unity is strength. CBO. Zindabad. CBO. Zindabad. CBO. Zindabad.